order. It is 5:30. We do have agendas if you'd like to grab one and follow along. They're on the dais here at the end of the tables where our management team is sitting. Just want to welcome all of you to our city council meeting this evening. We have the first order of business will be a zoning public hearing, and then we have kind of an unusual set of circumstances this evening with a combination council workshop and special called meeting. So there will be some items that we will be voting on in that special called meeting. So the meeting is called to order. Rob, I'll turn it over to you to get the public hearing started and go over the rules of conversation.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I'd like everybody to know that our stance for exercising zoning powers in our conflict of laws and interests are available on our website. There's the first two applications that we're going to be considering tonight at this public hearing is application PP21-0035. It's received by Mr. Ryan Sanders of Beltline Energy LLC involving Carrington property. This is a request to annex 2 tracts of land located on Carrington Drexel Road. This is map and parcel number 0057109, being a 10.82 acre tract and a 29.294 acre tract. Also, in connection with that tract of land is application KP21-0036. Again, received from Ryan Sanders of Beltline Energy. This is requesting to rezone the 10.82 acres and the 29.294 acres located on Carrington Drexel Road from County R1 to City Suburban Agricultural with conditions. We're going to also like to ask you the conflict questions. Have any of these applicants or opponents to the application contributed at least $250 to any of the campaigns for election during the past 2 years?
No.
Do you or any members of your family have a property interest that would be affected by the proposed rezoning or reclassification of the property, whether it is a positive or negative impact?
No.
Do you or any members of your family have a financial interest in any business entity that has a property interest in any real property that would be affected by the proposed rezoning or reclassification of the property, whether it's a positive or negative impact?
No.
All right, this time I'd like to ask Crystal Gaylor with our Department of Community Development to come up and explain exactly what this requests are.
To go along with what I'm speaking, because some of these issues are pretty technical, and I'd like to be able to show you as I'm speaking. But I'll go ahead and give a background.
If you're comfortable, can you remove your mask?
Oh yeah,
it's
sure.
A little bit muffled.
I almost forget it's
Okay,
on.
Thank you.
So, as a background, the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council have met several times to discuss these applications. I'll refer to this one as the Carrington property, just for ease, since we have 2 on the agenda and they're very similar. On June 14th, 2021, the Planning and Zoning Commission met, and this is the first time the application was heard, and they recommended approval of the applications for annexation and rezoning. On July 12th, there was a public hearing conducted. Also on July 12th, City Council workshopped this item, had several questions, and got answers to a lot of items. And on July 19th, City Council met. And instead of voting on the 19th, the item was postponed. It was sent back to Planning and Zoning for the inclusion of the 10.82 acre parcel. Initially, this is a 40-acre tract. Initially, the applicant was only requesting to bring in the 29 acres, and due to this violating zoning laws, it was sent back to Planning and Commission, or the Planning and Zoning Commission, for the extra 10.82 acres, the entire parcel. On August 2nd, it was sent back to City Council to workshop and go over the things that had changed from the last City Council workshop, and sent back again for Planning and Zoning Commission on August 9th. On August 23rd, there was a public hearing. Unfortunately, the item was removed from the agenda, and also from the city council agenda due to questions that needed to be answered that were raised from the public hearing. And on September 13th, most recently, the Planning and Zoning Commission met again to discuss the applications and have recommended approval again. And this is why I stand before you all and you all to discuss things that have changed just over the process of this application. It has been a moving target the entire time, and we believe it is nailed down and solid right now. Stephen, would you mind moving forward? Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. All right, thank you so much. So this in particular is what has been the focus of going back and forth between planning and zoning, city council workshops, and city council meetings is this plat that you have before you. This shows at the top, there's 10.82 acres that were subdivided from the parcel, and then that leaves remaining 29.294 acres to be annexed into the city. To the south of the parcel, there is a small connector that connects county below this parcel and to Miss Wileen Drexler's property. So this annexation plat has cleared up a lot of questions that we had in planning and zoning, and that is what has changed from the last workshop. I still believe that this is consistent with our comprehensive plan. We've discussed this from day one and from day one of June 14th of the first Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. You know, it's one of the main things that we bring up in our Planning and Zoning Commissions. It's one of the founding principles of a Planning and Zoning Commission is this consistent with our comprehensive plan? And I believe it is. I believe that we have laid out a lot of conditions on this development that have residential components. And in our future land use map, in our comprehensive plan, it shows this area being primarily residential. So I find it fitting. And that's all I have that's changed. If there's any questions that anybody has, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Chris. All right, at this time, I'd ask if there's anyone here that'd like to speak in favor of this application.
Yes, sir, Mr. Wilmot.
All right, if you would just state your name and who you are and where you live, and I think everybody's going to be given 5 minutes to speak.
My name is Ryan Sanders with Beltline Energy. I represent the two landowners here in this annexation request. If the city council would permit, I will approach with a stack of supporting documents. I won't take you through all the way tonight, but wanted to have it on record.
I can help you, Ryan.
Sure, these are the 5 copies for the council, and then this is one copy for you guys. I'd like to start by saying thank you to the City Council and the Planning and Zoning Department, Community Development Department. Everybody involved has put a lot of time and effort into this, and there's been a lot of focus on getting it right, which is important, and I believe that we have. So I'm going to start today by talking about the table of contents for that stack of documents that I've delivered to you. I'm going to run through that. Those are the supporting documents we've used to substantiate our answers to the opposition. And then I'm going to talk you through a short four-page slide deck that kind of summarizes our annexation and rezoning applications. So we started by taking and creating a transcript of the city council hearing on the 23rd, and then reconciling that transcript with the P&Z hearings, the notes that we took to make sure that we had a comprehensive list or population of concerns raised by the opposition. From there, we created about a 21-page document responding to the concerns the opposition has raised, and that stack of documents is the supporting evidence we use to substantiate our answers. Document number 3 is the annexation plat that Crystal just described on the overhead. We also included a Boyd property annexation aerial, the schematic for both the Boyd Solar Farm and the Carrington Farm Solar Farm that we used to apply to Georgia Power, Some Georgia case law, Fayette County versus Steele, that addresses the county island problem. We use that to inform our application strategy. We believe it's been used recently in Tift County, so it should be familiar. We also included a property valuation spreadsheet that shows that existing George Carr Solar Farm that's nearby and all the adjoining property owners. And it shows that the adjoining property owners have not had any change in their property value, while the Carr property that's hosting the solar farm has increased in value by 6 times, or 5.8 times. So to address the concern about property valuation, in Tift County, with existing data from the tax assessor, it's having a positive impact on valuation for the land holding the solar farm. It's increasing by 5.8 times, and the surrounding property has not lost any value at all. Additionally, we created a tax projection model that allows us to project the impact of the solar farms from a tax perspective, also the impact of surrounding housing and that kind of thing. And we use it in an Excel spreadsheet that's open format. It's not a PDF. You can get in there and test our numbers. In fact, at Pete's suggestion, we sat with the county tax assessor and confirmed that our calculations were correct. Those projections show that this is more than just 2 solar farms. The solar farms are about 40 acres of a larger 136 acres. That 136 acres is subject to zoning conditions that would allow for responsible, moderate residential growth. And that growth, in combination with our solar farm, could have up to a $25 million impact over the 40-year life of our solar farm. So this is a big deal, as you guys are well aware. The last document in there is our contract between Duke Energy and Georgia Power. That creates the obligation to the county and to the utility to keep the system in good working order. It also ensures that each project will put up to or greater than $500,000 in performance guarantee posted to the Georgia Power Company. It also creates the obligation between the project and the county. In order to operate their system in accordance with the contract with the utility, they have to maintain the zoning code that's been imposed by the city of Tifton. There's also 2 documents that substantiate that the panels themselves will cause no risk of heavy metals or leaching or any type of runoff that could negatively impact the water in the surrounding area. So, if you don't mind, I have 4 slides I'd like to walk through before I conclude and turn it over to the landowners. Sure. You probably have these slides in the deck that Crystal made, but in the interest of simplicity, it seems like we could all just walk through the slide deck that I presented you, and we can talk through the impact of this annexation and rezoning requests.
Ryan, just head it up to you, about a minute. Got about a minute.
Okay, great. So as you can see, Carrington Farms, it's about a 25-acre solar farm on 40 overall acres. In regards to Boyd, we've got about 20 acres of solar on a 96.317 annexation request. So as a result, with conservative projections of the property taxes not increasing, the solar farms on these 45 acres are creating about $1.2 million in tax revenue. But that's only part of the story. The additional 96 some odd acres that come along with the solar acreage are suitable for up to 192 residential homes. Over a 40-year period, each residential home of an average value of about $200,000 creates $128,000 in tax revenue.
That's your time.
All right, so in 40 years, that's $24 million. Combined, it's almost $26 million of economic impact.
Thanks, sir. Is there anyone else like to speak in favor of the application? Just for everybody's information, this public hearing is just dealing with the Carrington properties. We'll be moving on to the public hearing on the Boyd properties here as soon as we conclude with this public hearing.
Okay. My name is Lisa Carrington Meadows, and I live at 2606 Wilson Avenue, Tifton, Georgia. And I want to clarify, Carrington Farms, that's what we're on. That's what you said, right, Rob?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, evening. It's good to see y'all again. I'm sure you would prefer not to see me, or not in this venue anyway. Not to be redundant, had this conversation, or I've had the opportunity to speak several times before, and not to be redundant, I will be saying some of the same things that I've said before. I am speaking on behalf of a family business, Carrington Farms. At this moment in time, it's a fourth-generation family farm. It will be soon to be 5 generations. The solar farm, as I've said before, we've done the research, we've asked the questions, we've had them answered, and to our satisfaction, we have made a decision that this works for our family situation, and that we would like to continue forward. We also perceive that it does benefit Tipton. Now, it may not benefit Tipton overnight, but it's not benefiting us overnight, because that's what progress is. And part of progress is also having to deal with the emotional part of change. And we're very aware of the oppositional positions that exist out there. But also know that our family, again, did not wake up one morning, make this decision, and decide within minutes, hours. There are other individuals. There's an individual, a businessman in this county that I know each of you would respect whatever he told you. And I've had conversations with him, as well as other conversations with other people. He's doing business with this solar farm that we chose to go with. I recognize that Mr. Griffin works for another solar farm. We have done our research on that solar farm as well. Opinions are opinions. Facts are facts. Feelings are feelings. Beliefs are beliefs. And we all have them. And at the end of the day, we have to sort out what value each of those things have to make the bigger picture work. And I can assure you that on behalf of my family, we are all on board. There are some other excess acreage that would surround the solar farm, but that is not for us to make decisions at this time. That will come. We have to do one thing at a time. I don't know if I'm being clear. I've had quite a few conversations, so I may be getting ahead of myself and forgetting who exactly and what exactly I've said earlier today and in this week. Change is very emotional, and also for the city, and clearly for the county. It's difficult that way as well. We also understand the financial gain. And as been pointed out to me today, it's got to be win-win. We want to make sure everybody wins something. Unfortunately, it doesn't always come that way on the scales. Sometimes the scales are a little bit up here. And I know how difficult it must be to be in these positions that you all are in, because pretty sure that somebody's going to always walk away a little bit unhappy. And somebody's going to walk away confused. Somebody's going to walk away quite pleased with themselves. That is what change is when it's progressive to a community. And that must be very challenging, to be put in these positions to make those decisions for other people. But I remind you that this property, 4 generations going on 5, and we have the opportunity to make decisions about what belongs to us. And never have we made generationally bad decisions. And I want to counter a few points. We understand the value of that property. We understand that it is financially valuable. I know that there have been comments made that this property, that we've been trying to sell it for 20 years. That is not an accurate comment. People have been trying to purchase it for 20 years plus. So, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, again, we're on the Carrington property. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this application? All right, is there anyone here who'd like to speak? If you would just say your name and address, please.
Sure. My name's Jeff Walters. Address is 2855 Fitzpatrick Drive, Tallahassee, Florida. I was here back at the August 23rd meeting. I've read Mr. Sanders' responses. I'm one of the owners of the property that's up north of the Boyd property at the Brighton Road I-75 exit. It's been in our family since 1938. We're interested in possibly coming into the city with our property if the Boyd property is annexed. It's a prime 42-acre parcel right there by the interstate. Has the potential to generate additional tax revenue for the city. And we support the annexation and rezoning of the Carrington property. I think the zoning regulations are in place to control land use. It's been approved 3 times now by the Planning and Zoning Board. Meets all their requirements. The buffers, the codes, and the regulations that apply will address all the legitimate issues, I think, that have been raised at the meetings in the past. The individual landowners here should be able to utilize their property in their best interest with the land use requirements and within the land use requirements of the zoning regulations. And just again, I support both the annexation and rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of the Carrington application?
Good evening. My name is Julia Walter Smith. I live at 1900 Ridgewood Drive, Chattanooga, Tennessee. I also am a co-owner of the property on Brighton Road, located just north of the Boyd property. Again, the land has been in our family since our father was 3 to 5 years old. We are interested in the annexation of this property. We have prime 42 acres of commercial property at exit I-75, off I-75, exit 66. And again, it would be great potential additional tax revenue for the city of Tifton. Therefore, I support the proposed annexation and rezoning of both properties. And again, it meets the requirements of the Planning and Zoning Board, and it's been approved 3 times. The zoning regulations, code buffers address all the legitimate issues that have been raised in previous meetings. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this application?
I'm John Walters. I live at 1713 East Ridgewood Road, Jasper, Alabama. I'm also a co-owner of the property at Brighton Road and I-75. It's just north of the Boyd property. And it's been in our family for 80 years. And we would be interested, if these properties are passed, to potentially annex our property into the city also. It's 42 acres. It's at the I-75 exit at Brighton Road. And it's, we support the Boyd, or I support the Boyd property and Carrington Farms property annexation. It meets all the requirements and criteria of the P&Z board that's been approved 3 times now. The zoning regulations in place to control the land use, the buffers, meets all those codes and all legitimate issues that have been raised in previous meetings. The approval will increase the city of Tifton tax revenue, and the individual landowner should be able to use the property in the best interest within the land use requirements of the zoning and planning regulations. And I support the annexation and rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, is there anyone else here that would like to speak in favor of this application? All right, is there anyone here that would like to speak in opposition to the application? I will.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dustin Griffin. I live at 4165 Georgia Highway 125 North. I am opposed to this, and a few reasons why. The word facts has been brought up a lot tonight. Let's talk some facts. Facts. I've lived at my address for 3 years. Facts. Carrington Farms has been for sale for those 3 years. Facts. She was asking $25,000 an acre, or excuse me, $30,000 an acre. Unless you bought 4 at a time, you could get it for $25,000 an acre. I approached Jordan Pope, which was a listing agent at the time, to purchase that land because I wanted to increase how much land that I owned. Facts. Only one person has bought any piece of that property. He was a business owner here in town. Has he developed that land yet? No. They're asking too much for that land. Facts. What we're talking about tonight's a solar farm. That's what's been proposed and what's been brought up. I want the committee to look at the facts and the black and white. Mr. Folk, the last meeting we were here, you talked about how great this could be for the city, about the potential growth for the city. I agree that would be great if the city were to grow, and it could make you guys money. But the facts of what we're talking about tonight is a solar farm, and the potential income over the next 40 years is a little over $200,000. We can't guarantee that if they can't even sell land now, what's to say that they're going to allow that land to be sold and developed? Not a single person in that committee can look at me in my face and tell me that they're going to allow that. And not only that, who's going to pay that much for that land with a solar farm behind it? You have zero facts to base, that investment on. You can simply look at a little over $200,000 investment over the next 40 years. I ask all of you, Mayor, when you sell a home, you go off of the facts of that appraisal for what that home is worth. You're not going to justify, hey, there's going to be a great subdivision or the city's going to grow north, so I can save this home an extra $50,000 more than what it's truly worth. You're based on the facts. And that's what I want you guys to base the decision on tonight. We've talked about warranties. At the end of the day, I still have one question on warranties. I get, and I'm going to break it down for simple numbers, I get that he has a contract with Georgia Power. I get that if that farm does not produce a certain amount, that he's going to have to step in and fix the equipment to get it back up to that same level. So I'm going to use simple math of 100. Let's just say that farm makes 100 kilowatts, and I haven't saw his contract with Georgia Power. I would have loved to have saw that before this meeting. But let's just say his farm has to make 100, and he has a buffer of 20 kW. So let's just say if that farm, things start tearing up on that farm, as long as it's making above 80, he's good to go and he doesn't have to fix anything. That's my question for the committee the other night. What happens if that farm tears up and 15% of that farm is not working? And he's still within the good standards of Georgia Power. We're all still looking at a farm that's allowed by your standards to sit there and be torn up, our trackers not to work or not perform properly because he's still within the good guidelines and standards of the contract he signed with Georgia Power. We're the ones still looking at that, and that's my point. He's not going to be required to fix it, and there's nothing that you or anybody else can do about it because it wasn't handled here in the meeting here because he's in good standards with Georgia Power. Sorry, I want to check my notes right quick just to make sure I'm not overlooking anything. And then I know we're not on the board, but again, coming down to the land, how do we know? Can you guys prove that they're going to sell that land or they're going to be able to even develop that land to get the income, the $1 billion or whatever he proposed over the next 40 years? Again, while you guys are making your decision, make it off what the farm's making, not the proposed. If you invested your retirement, you're going to have evidence of how you invest that money. You're not going to make it on the whim of if this does great. Heck, if I won $1 million tomorrow, I'd go buy some more land and wouldn't worry about this farm. But we got to talk about the facts. So when you guys make your decisions tonight, please look at the facts and not the what if. Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else here that would like to speak in opposition to this application?
So Mike Drexler, I live at 321 Brantley Ridge Road, or Brantley Ridge in Warner Robins, Georgia, 31088. I'm here to speak against this. I know there's been a lot of terms thrown around, what we're wanting to do with the land, and I think for me that's probably the biggest thing is that the proposal. I'm not as concerned about the annexation. I am more concerned about the proposal of the solar farm. I sent a good deal of information to you, to the council regarding some of the environmental issues, to counter any points that they would say, that, hey, these are all the things from an environmental standpoint that we believe are positive. But we were able to take and to submit articles to you guys that would balance to the contrary. So, you know, to me, that leads a lot of doubt in that area and what potentially environmentally we could do to that area, whether it be to the groundwater or whether it be to the wildlife that exists there. Those are two of the things that I think are vital to this community. Number one being the water and how that water flows through there from a hydrologic standpoint. And I think that's a big concern that the council has to look at, were there to be any issues regarding heavy metal leaching into the soil through particularly some sort of natural disaster. So I just would ask for you guys to consider that as you make your decision. Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else here that would like to speak in opposition to this application, or these applications?
I'm Carla Drexler Googe. I live at 406 Ty Sparks Road. I was born and raised on Carrington Drexler Road. That property is still owned by my mother. Her and my dad worked all those years to make sure that they maintained the property, kept the property, didn't lose the property. She is now in assisted living, or she would be here speaking herself. I am opposed to the solar farm, and I hope that the council takes that into consideration.
Anyone else like to speak in opposition to the application?
Hi, I'm Deborah Brooks. My address is 278 Lower Brookville Road, Tifton, Georgia. I own 9 acres that borders the Boyd property. Had been a member of the community there for almost 40 years. I am not opposed to the annexation, but I am opposed to the solar farm. And so I wish that you would really consider what's going on here. Thank you.
I'm Edmund Hennis. I live at 37 Brooks Lane, just off the Carrington Dexter Road. And I'm a newcomer from here, to here. I've been here 8 months. And I bought the property to retire on. And I love the setting of the peanut fields and cotton fields all around me. And I hate to be driving home or looking out my back window and looking at solar fields. So I'm really kind of opposed to that. And I appreciate your time. Hope you don't do it. Vote for it. Sorry, Miss.
Anyone else like to speak in opposition to these applications? Mayor, there's not being any further public comment. I'd ask that this public hearing be closed.
Okay. All right, thank you, Rob. All right, we will go into our special call meeting.
Mayor, we still have 2 more.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. I thought you had finished everything. I'm sorry.
All right,
Go
the
ahead.
next public hearing we're going to have is going to be on application PP 21-0037. This was received by Ryan Sanders from Belline Energy. It's commonly referred as the Boyd property. This application is requesting to annex 2 tracts of land located on Carrington Drexel Road. This is mapped from parcel numbers 0057-060 and 0057-060A, being 96.317 acres. The application on the Boyd property has also received to rezone this property. This is application number PP 21-0038, again received from Ryan Sanders of Belline Energy. Requesting the rezoning of the 96.317 acres, again located on Carrington Drexel Road, from County R1 to City Suburban Agricultural with conditions. Someone like to ask the council the conflict questions. Have any of these applicants or opponents to the application contributed at least $250 to any of the campaigns for election during the past 2 years?
No.
Do you or any members of your family have a property interest that would be affected by the proposed rezoning or reclassification of the property, whether there's a positive or negative impact?
No.
Do you or any members of your family have a financial interest, any business entity that has a property interest in any real property that would be affected by the proposed rezoning or reclassification of the property, whether there's a positive or negative impact?
No.
Again, I'd like to ask Crystal Gaillard if she would come up and explain exactly what these two applications are involved.
Thanks, Rob. So this, the Boyd property has a long and storied history like the Carrington property. I'll go through it little bit by little bit so we can kind of see how we got here today. I know a lot of people have questions of
Fully aware of that. They own their own solar farms. They've designed their contract to address that. And I can explain in more further detail, but there's a lot of numbers floating around. Suffice to say, there's a power purchase agreement that's in the stack of documents with you. I can go through it in detail how Georgia Power addresses the concern that was raised by Mr. Griffin. But the larger picture is we have 136 acres up for annexation, 96.317 with Boyd. Only a small handful, less than 50% are dedicated to solar. And these annexation requests allow the city to expand in a valuable direction, increase the tax base, and plan for the future. So we thank you very much for your consideration. We appreciate all the hard work that the Community Development Department has put in, city attorney, and we would welcome the opportunity to do business in your community.
Okay, does anyone else like to speak in favor of the application?
I'm Norma Carrington Boyd, and I live at 261 Carrington Drexler Road in Tifton. That land has been in my family many years also, and my parents and grandparents worked hard to preserve it and to save it and to keep it. And it's been maintained very well through the years. And to own something that long, we would hope that we could get something out of it, that we approve of it also. But let me go back, and it wouldn't, let me go back. About 6 years ago, a franchise came to me and wanted to buy 10 acres. The starting point was at $35,000, and it went considerably from that point on. I turned them down because I didn't want to sell it. And I know as time goes on, it becomes more valuable. We've never asked for it to be sold, never even wanted it sold. And as far as the solar farm taken away where the cotton couldn't be seen or the tobacco couldn't be seen, that's not true because it's going to be grown right back in that same field. So I just hope that you can see our point of view for owning it and maintaining it that long. We would appreciate so much your consideration to it. Thank you.
Is anyone else here who'd like to speak in favor of this application?
I spoke before, but again, my name is Jeff Walters. I live at 2855 Fitzpatrick Drive in Tallahassee, Florida. I've been to a couple of the previous meetings here with the council and one of the zoning meetings. Our family owns the property at Brighton Road exit next to the Boyd property. We're directly north of Miss Boyd's property and join her at the southern boundary of our property. Our family's had this property for over 80 years. We are interested in coming into the city as well if this goes forward. We have a prime 42-acre parcel right there at the interstate that would generate additional tax revenue for the city. And, you know, the bottom line is the Boyds and the Carringtons have been good stewards of their land for many, many years. They've done everything the Planning and Zoning Board has asked in terms of complying with the regulations, and they're doing that. And these landowners should really have the right to do what they want to with their property that's in their best interest. And I support the annexation and rezoning of the Boyd property. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak in favor of this application?
Hello again. My name is Julia Walter Smith. I live in 1900 Ridgewood Drive, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Again, our family has, let me start over. I'm a co-owner of the property on Brighton Road. This land has been in our family for over 80 years. We are interested in the annexation of this property that we're discussing tonight. We do have this prime 42-acre property at the exit 66 off I-75, and it is also a great addition of tax revenue for the city of Tifton if possible. We support both of these properties being rezoned, and that they meet the requirements of the Planning and Zoning Board, which has been pre-approved 3 times before. Again, the zoning regulations that the city has set up should code and buffer and address all legitimate issues raised. Thank you again for your time.
Is anyone else here like to speak in favor of the application?
I'm John Walters. I live at 1713 East Ridgewood Road, Jasper, Alabama. I'm also a co-owner of the property at Brighton Road. It's just north of the Boyd property. It's been in our family for over 80 years. My grandfather purchased it. It was a dirt road and there was no I-75. There's been a lot of growth since then. There's probably going to be a lot more. So we're potentially interested in the annexation so that we can have our property annexed into the city as well. It's 42 acres right at I-75 and Brighton Road. That's a potential to generate additional tax revenue for the city of Tifton. I support the Boyd and Carrington Farms properties annexation and rezoning. They've met all the requirements and criteria of the board and zoning regulations. And again, I think approval will increase the city of Tifton in tax revenue, and the individual landowner should be able to use the property in their best interest within the land use requirements of the zoning regulations. I support the annexation and rezoning. Thank you.
Does anyone else like to speak in favor of the application? Is anyone here that would like to speak in opposition to these applications? Yes, sir.
Good evening, my name is Dustin Griffin. Again, I live at 4165 Georgia Highway 125 North in Tifton. Just a few things on this one here. It's been stated tonight that they are willing to grow, allow the city to grow and to annex the land, but at all or nothing cost. They'll do it if they get their farm, but if they don't get their farm, then they're not. Again, it's been brought up before. Ms. Boyd's even said herself, over all the time it's been in her family, they have not wanted to sell it. They don't want to sell it. And she even stated with her own words standing before you a few minutes ago, they will still see the cotton farms and the tobacco farms. They have no desire to sell this land or to develop this land. Again, the city's going to make a decision on the what-if moment, or the what-if we develop. That land is way far away from any other city utilities. Has anybody thought about the cost of what it's going to take to develop that land or to get our utilities all the way to that land near the interstate on a $200,000 investment? That's what the city's going to make over 40 years. Where does that cost come into play? Again, we're doing all this on the what-if they allow us to develop the land. Mr. Sanders is in the same situation I'm in. I do sales for a living. I sell solar. As I've stated before, I'm extremely pro-solar for a residential home. And if somebody makes that decision and takes on that investment themselves, because they can truly see the benefit themselves, their family can see the benefit directly impact them. This farmer is not going to benefit any of us around it. It's not going to affect our property values. It's not going to make them go down or up. We're not going to see any of that power that's being made. That power is going to be sold to Georgia Power at roughly 4 cents a kilowatt, in which they're going to turn around and sell it for anywhere from 12 to 15 cents a kilowatt. I see it on a daily basis. Anybody that doesn't know how to do calculate their light bill, I'd be more than happy to show you. That's about what you pay for power, anywhere from 12 to 15 cents per kilowatt from Georgia Power. He stated Georgia Power's smart and that they know how to do contracts. If all of you remember, and I believe NJ is the only one that wasn't here last time, I presented all of you with a packet to show you other farms and why I was opposed to those. The farm I showed you was in Butler, Georgia. Guess who owns that farm? That's a Georgia Power-owned farm. Georgia Power has owned that farm since 2016. And I showed you with your own eyes how that farm currently looks. They bought that farm out. Okay, it's public knowledge. I'll be more than happy to provide it for you. They bought that farm out, and look at the way that that farm looks. Those trackers already quit working. They have a 5-year warranty, and that's where they're looking. And Georgia Power currently is in charge of that farm. Last thing. I'm for annexation. I'm 100% for annexation. I want the city to grow, and I want Tift County to continue to grow. But at what cost? Is the city going to sit here and say yes to this and have to wait 40 years for the city to grow? I feel like there's other ways that we can grow in a better manner than have to give them what they want and wait 40 years for our town to grow and prosper. Again, as I leave tonight, just look at the facts in this. Base it on the knowledge and the numbers that's been put in front of you, not on the what ifs. What if we develop? What if 100 and however many homes gets built? What if? Nobody's built in the past 3 years since I've been there and the land's been for sale. What's to say they're going to do it then? Thank you for your time. Y'all have a good night.
Mr. Griffin, one more question. Where did you say that farm was?
It's in Butler, Georgia. In the packet that I gave you guys last time, that's the actual farm. And it's the printout showing you and everything. If anybody needs it, I can get it again.
Is there anyone else here who would like to speak in opposition to these applications?
Again, Mike Drexler, 321 Brantley Ridge, Warner Robins, Georgia. My mother owns the property basically sandwiched in between the two properties that we're talking about here tonight. I would echo some of the things that Dustin said around, you know, we're talking about annexing property and we're going to let it grow and all this, and there's really no guarantee that we're going to continue to develop for a long period of time. I know Mr. J.C. for a long time. I grew up sitting in his lap many days, and he's a great man. I wonder what it's going to do to the apiary impact of that area for the bees that he's so for as long as I knew him, he always dealt with and always managed. You know, there's a lot of technical documentation out there for us, guys. Mine's going to say one thing, Beltline Industries and what they've got is going to say something different. I don't disagree. The landowners should be able to use that property for what they want to. However, what it does is it begins to impact the neighbors around that property, and as that potential is there, that's what we're asking, or that's what I'm asking for you guys to look at, is that potential for how it can impact the neighbors. To be quite honest with you, I see probably one person in this room who bought a piece of property to retire on. And I really look at it and say, you know, as we look to grow and develop, that really wasn't what he bought that property for. And, you know, that's the one thing that does make me sad here tonight, that what I know that property is up there, and the pond and the log house that sits on it. That's the one thing that probably makes me sadder about it than anything, is that I know what he was looking for, and I feel like as we look to progress, even though, like I told you, I would not be opposed to annexation, I'm opposed to the solar farm, is that I do see it that his vision of what it's going to look like for retirement is probably going to fall by the wayside. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else like to speak in opposition to these applications?
Carla Drexler Googe. I live at 406 Tata Sparks Road in Tata, Georgia. Once again, I was born and raised in this area, and if this goes through and they put the solar panels, my mom's property, like I said earlier, that they have worked to keep and keep in the family. We too are longstanding family owners of the property. My grandmother received it as a gift when she got married, and my mom's property will be sandwiched in on the solar, around the solar panels. And I'd like for you to also take into consideration, they're talking about building, you know, the residentials in that area. I personally do not want to live next to a solar farm. I know the Carr family very, very well. Mr. J.C., Ms. Norman's father as well, everybody. We're a community. And I promise you that Ms. Joyce does not like looking at a solar farm. But just like in this situation, there was a person that received part of the property and they put a solar farm on it. So I agree, people ought to have the right to do what they want. But I also think that when you've got other people that own land in that area, that their opinions should be taken into consideration. And thank you again for your time tonight.
Anyone else like to speak in opposition to these applications?
Deborah Brooks, 278 Lower Brookville Road, Tifton, Georgia. I own the 9 acres that borders the Boyd property. Again, lived out there and loved it. It's beautiful. I hate to see where we're headed if that's the case. I am not opposed to annexation. It's beautiful. People would love to live out there, but not next to a solar farm. It's just all negative all the way around. Thank you.
Anyone else here would like to speak in opposition to the application?
Edmund Hennis, 37 Brooks Lane. I bought the property from Mr. Brooks. I'm neighbors. The property you're talking about is going to be adjacent to my land. And I love seeing the cows out there right now. I like seeing Miss Norma go every Friday morning. It's just like clockwork. You know, to come rain or shine, she goes out and mows all the pasture all the way around all the fences. And, you know, that's kind of like been my dream, but I guess I know we're coming to the age where solar is about ready to take over everything, but I can't see it being good in the future. But I was hoping you would just not vote for it on my behalf and these other people's. I appreciate it for your time. Have a good evening.
Anyone else like to speak in opposition to these applications? Mayor, there being no further public comment, I ask that public hearing be closed.
Okay. All right, so the public hearings, all aspects of the public hearing are completed, correct, Rob?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we will call to order our council workshop and special called meeting, and you have the agenda before you, gentlemen. I will need an approval of the agenda or a motion to make any changes if there are changes that need to be made. Okay, as submitted. Okay, thank you, Jack. Is there a second? All right, thanks, Wes. So a motion to accept the motion second to accept the agenda as submitted. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, under our new business category, Emily, I saw Emily outside the door. She had to leave, Mayor. She had to leave. Okay, do you want to talk about Georgia Cities or Jessica? I've got the proclamation.
Sure, if you want to read the proclamation, that's fine. She was just going to review the happenings this week. We left the flyer there. They'll have the Employee Appreciation Lunch and a Customer Appreciation Day this week, and then follow up with the Rhythm and Ribs Festival this week.
Okay. Let me just read into record the proclamation recognizing Georgia Cities Week. And the proclamation says, whereas city government is the closest governance to the people it serves and the one government with the most direct daily impact upon its residents, and whereas city government is administered for and by its citizens and is dependent upon public commitment to and understanding of its many principles, and city government officials and employees share the responsibility to pass along their understanding of public services and their benefits, and whereas Georgia Cities Week is a very important time to recognize the important role played by city government in our lives, and whereas the Georgia Municipal Association and its member cities, of which we are one, have joined together to promote Georgia cities by showcasing activities and public information And this week offers an important opportunity to spread the word to all citizens of Georgia that through participation, they can shape, influence, and truly impact their local government through civic involvement. Now therefore, I, Julie Smith, Mayor of the City of Tifton, do hereby proclaim October 3rd through the 9th as Georgia Cities Week and encourage all citizens, officials, and employees to do everything possible to ensure that this week is recognized and celebrated accordingly. And I have signed that, and our city clerk, Jessica White, has signed that. So that proclamation is in effect, and we're going to have a great week for Georgia Cities Week. So it's going to be a lot of fun to culminate this Saturday in the Rhythm and Ribs Festival, which will take place in Fullwood Park. We're excited about that. And anything else you need to add, Pete,
Yeah,
on
Mayor,
Georgia
Council,
Cities?
if you'd like to participate, we are going to do lunch Wednesday. It starts at 11:30, go to 1:30, so we're not going to have a sit-down, but it's going to be a drive-through. But if you'd like to come out and participate and help do that, we'd love to have your assistance. So we're going to do it at the main station at the fire department.
Okay, do you want to talk about the Customer Appreciation Day here at City Hall?
Jessica, can you add any comments on that?
Oh,
About the Customer Appreciation
I'm
Day?
assuming that it's the same as in previous years. I think we're just going to do self-rep, single individual
Okay.
things. We'll just have goodies and
Okay.
things to get through the customers that come in that day.
Okay, very good. All right. Any questions or comments about Georgia Cities Week from anybody? Uh-oh, we've got we have technical difficulties. Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call on Jeff West. Jeff is going to talk to us about the FY 2022 LMIG resurfacing, LMIG being Local Maintenance Improvement Grant. So Jeff, you want to share that information with us?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor and Council, that time of year again, I brought the list of proposed streets to you for your review for the 2022 LMIG. I tried to keep it tight this year and stay around a $400,000 budget. So that's kind of, there may be some a little bit worse, but they're a lot longer. We tried to pick out some shorter streets, also some sections we can do to stay within that amount. And these are our recommended streets. We'd like y'all to take a look at them. And if you have any suggestions, let us know, and we can try to tweak it any way we can.
I only have one suggestion. I would like to get 22nd Street between Meadowbrook and I think it's Tyson. That little section has been rough for a long time. And it sure would like some love. That's it. That's all I think. The only thing that it's a small piece, so hopefully that won't cost that much.
I know we're talking resurfacing, but I do have a question about striping.
Yes.
When will we be doing more striping around town?
There was not an LMIG for striping this time, so we applied, but they did not have one this year, so.
Okay.
We can look at maybe doing some. I'll have to get with people, see what our budget allows for us to.
Okay.
Maybe do some striping.
Okay.
We need some.
Yeah, there's some areas where it's just almost completely gone, so we need to talk about that. If y'all don't mind, if the council, as you're riding around town and talking to your constituents, let's get a list going and we can get that to you to review and see what it would take to do some additional striping. So.
Striping, that would be helpful. We did over almost $100,000 of striping last
I
year.
know.
So again, it's, there's a lot of work. All our streets are graded and evaluated, that we put it into our system. There is a formula, so it's not something that we take lightly. So if you'll look at those streets again, it's time to submit our application for LMIG.
Okay.
Just the same. So this time of year, we just like to get this in front of you, and if you'll please look at that. If there are any other suggestions, please let us know.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions?
When's the paving going to start for the?
I'm gonna check with Stacy tomorrow. It's supposed to start on October 1st, but I haven't seen any sign of
Those people on Parker Road are killing it.
As they should. They've been very patient.
Yeah, I know. In the middle of the summer, in the middle of
Yeah.
September, I said, first week in October, so you got 4 more days to get that done before they come back.
And that's when the notice to proceed was issued for October 1st.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Jeff. Any questions of Jeff? Okay, thank you, Jeff. All right, the next item on our agenda is the proposed ordinance and requirements for package sales. Rob, you want to share all that information with us?
Yeah, this will be a little bit of a tag team. We've been working on this, Pete and myself and Jessica met last week, and it's still somewhat of a work in progress. But basically what this, there'll be a new article in our alcohol ordinance, and it'll basically supplementing all the other provisions in our chapter. So things such as, license qualifications, investigations, things of that nature, distance requirements, they're already contained, will apply to this, this particular article. So hitting, kind of the highlights, and some of the things that we'd like to kind of get some feel from council. We again talked about how many licenses to issue. And we have talked about, the last meeting, I believe, 3 licenses, 1 per 5,000 population in the city. So I guess what we're, one of the things that we still have hanging out there is that the number that you would like to look at? Would you like to have more? Would you like to have less? Again, we've had it right now at 3, so if you all decide that you'd like to have any more than that, just, we can change that to whatever number you think would be appropriate.
With our latest census numbers, our population is over 15. So if it's 1 per 5,000, I think we need to probably increase that to 4, but I would leave that up to the council to make that decision, obviously, but my recommendation would be to bump to 4, if the council is supportive of that.
My recommendation is not having that.
I know.
That's,
Right.
Business is business. Since when the supply and demand not take care of having too many. If you have one, you've opened the door. Okay? So you have 1 or you have 10. Tifton ain't going to support 10. So we're going to set up an arbitrary number, say, well, only 3. We're going to make 3 people rich. But that's it.
So, again, this is still the drafting stage. We'll go ahead and put 4 in, and then we can debate that, discuss that as well. The other thing that we were considering was the zoning districts. We have talked about general business, and then there is a question of whether or not you would be interested in any other zoning districts such as commercial downtown. So right now we have GB and possibly CD, depending on what you all would like to see.
Does bringing it into commercial downtown, and it doesn't matter to me, I'm just asking the question. I know that the zoning is a little bit different with regard to commercial downtown as it relates to distances for restaurants and things, those type of businesses that currently sell alcohol.
That's right.
Would that distance requirement be in place or be removed because of the commercial downtown aspect of it?
It would be my thought that, the distance requirements for, license for consumption on premises would remain the same, but then, you would still have the same requirements that you would have for a package store as you would anywhere
General
else.
business. Okay. Because a large part of your district and your district is the commercial downtown area. So, so I'm sure these 2 gentlemen might want to weigh in on that, so.
I'm totally open, so trying to
Sure.
see if there's some possibly happen to have one establishment downtown. I don't know if that's, but it's something you have to look into.
So you want to go ahead and allow,
Let's, just for discussion's sake, I'd say let's go ahead and leave that in there. We can certainly have conversations with our Downtown Development
Okay.
Authority and DDA Director and see if there's any feeling one way or the other, but I think for conversational purposes, for now, let's leave it somewhat general and as we hone in on it, we'll tighten that up.
And I think on the arterial roads, so it's kind of it's a little more safer. It's not going to be into the residential areas. However, we do have residential on second and third floors downtown.
Right.
So on the main roads, that's obviously where we're aiming this. So it'd be, if you'd like to do it, that's one of the
Okay.
benefits of having it in CH.
Sure. Okay.
You know, for safety reasons, you know, we wanted to, what we have in here is that the front entrance of the building has to be visible from the street, also requiring both interior and exterior illumination, as well as security cameras both inside and outside of the establishment. The distance requirements, you know, for a package store is the same as they are in the alcohol ordinance. The only caveat to that is under state law, they have to be at least 500 yards apart. So that's included in this article. When we talk about the application requirements and we're talking about the number of applicants, the question, you know, comes up: how do you determine who is going to be, you know, get the license? And what we are considering, or what we've, you know, kind of drafted, is that there would be a deadline, and I think, Jesse, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think I put in there at the end, by December 31, you've got to have your application in. Then there would be once all the applications are in, then we can go through those applications and determine who is a qualified applicant. Then once we have, you know, did the investigation and our homework as far as whether or not they're a qualified applicant, then that applicant would be assigned a number. Then depending on how many qualified applicants you had, you put that number, you know, into a basket, and then you draw 3 or 4 numbers, whichever number of licenses you want to allow for. And that is kind of the process that we're looking at as far as what would be a fair way to determine, you know, by lottery, you know, who actually gets those licenses. I think it's similar to what they do down in Florida, where they have a lottery in Florida for, you know, getting alcohol licenses. So that's our thought on that. When we talk about the physical aspects of the building as well, we were looking at having a minimum floor space of 1,000 square feet. Jessica, you may have looked at some things, maybe 2,000 square feet.
Yeah, and Pete was saying that was kind of small, and I looked at a couple of properties, and most of them are at least 2,000.
So we may, so we're looking at the minimum floor space, either 1,000, 2,000 square feet. We also want to provide that we have, you know, we get some type of a survey so we know the distance requirements are being met, residency requirements, and we want to get some type of financial information, either a bank letter, to show that they have the ability to actually open the business. In connection with that, if someone does get a license, I believe we have, what's the requirement, Jessica? They have to open up in 6 months?
I think it was 180 days.
Yeah, if they, you know, once they get their license, they're gonna have to open up within 180 days. Their failure to do that, you lose your license. And then if you quit selling for a period of 6 months, then you lose your license. That way, if people don't open up or people close, then we can go ahead and draw another number and grant another license.
What were you thinking about the residency requirements?
Well, we talked, I mean, certainly, you know, being a United States citizen, and then we were talking about, you know, some cities you have to be a resident of the county. You know, that kind of gives you, you know, the local people the ability to get the license versus somebody, you know, from Atlanta.
You see resident of the city, better. I mean, you gotta be done better bit living in the city, doesn't it, other than.
I mean, I mean, I think that's,
it's in several. And certainly did we put in Tift County in this one, Jessica?
It's not in our page
No,
here.
you just have the state of Georgia, so if y'all want to do that, we can add it. That's why I wasn't specific on it.
Right. So like I say, you know, there's still a little bit of work in
So-
progress, but,
Okay, so does the council want to include Tift County? Or-
At least Tift County.
Yeah, I would say at minimum, you have to live within the county.
okay.
Can you explain to me, Rob, if someone does, let's say we award four stores, and then one does close for whatever reason, do we re-advertise that we're going back to lottery, or do we, kind of like we would do a bid situation, or do we just draw from those that are already there? Or is there some timeline that triggers either of those?
Well, that's a really good question, Mayor, because I thought about that. I mean, it would seem to me that, in my opinion, you re-advertise and give other folks a chance to put in an application.
Right.
And then then you do the drawing. That,
Or you have alternates. You know, if you got 4, maybe you draw 5 or 6
Yeah,
and
but
say,
if-
okay, if something doesn't happen in 6 months, you go to number 5 versus the, you know, you're going through that whole process.
We just have to kind of
of,
think through
You know,
that.
of re-advertising.
Yeah.
see, my initial thought was that if you had all your applications in by December 31, then you do your drawing by sometime in March, give yourself a chance to do your investigation. But then, you know, that wouldn't work if you had somebody that just closed their business and then you want to draw another number. I mean, do you just use those ones that you had in the prior year, or do you then re-advertise it? But if you think about it, you know, if somebody closes their business and then you advertise it, and then you draw another, and you get other applications, then you draw another number, then you don't have this December 31 anymore. It would just keep going on as people, you know, forfeit their licenses for whatever reason.
Can a store owner transfer their license? If Wes wins the lottery and he opens it and 2 years later, I want to come buy that from Wes, I can't do that?
No, these are non-transferable.
Okay. Sorry, Wes.
So you can't sell at the store.
Right, see, that's what happens down in Florida. I mean, everybody makes an application for a license because they get the license and they sell it. So I don't think we want to have that. So the operating hours would be Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. until 11:59 p.m. We have, you know, restrictions as far as what a package store can sell as far as other merchandise. We're talking about non-alcoholic beverages is commonly used to, you know, mixed drinks, wines and malt beverages, if you're licensed, you know, glasses, paraphernalia commonly used, you know, for drinking, tobacco products, and packaged ice. That way it kind of keeps it from being a convenience store. Also, you know, employees have to be 21 years of age. No type of gambling devices can be, you know, in the package store.
That include lottery tickets?
Well, you know, that's a good question. Jessica, you know, asked me that earlier today. I mean, I don't know that I've got an issue with selling lottery tickets at a package store, but, I mean, what do y'all think?
I don't think any of us would have a problem with lottery tickets. It's those machines that are
Gaming
supposed to pay
machines,
out
right.
and product and that kind of thing, so. yeah.
Okay.
What about, Rob, I'm just trying to think of any question that may come up, and I've already had several people call asking about this, so the word is out on the street, which is good. We want people to go and vote their conscience. Will they be able to give samples and things like that from time to time? Like if someone wanted to have a special distributor come in and give samples of like if the Georgia Rum Group came in and said, we're gonna give little samples of Georgia rum. Is that permissible under these situations, or?
I can
Okay,
answer. It's in the state law of what they can do, so those standards are there.
okay, so that's within state law. Okay, gotcha, okay. All right.
This is my second chair.
Yes.
You're fired.
You lost your seat, Chad, sorry. Okay. All right.
Easy come, easy go.
So,
Would y'all be okay with gas, or do we not want to keep gas? I mean, do you not want it gas?
gasoline.
Having a gas pump there?
I don't
No?
have an
I
opinion.
don't go get gas on that.
I'm just thinking if they may use a facility or something that's already
Right.
isn't there.
I don't have an opinion about that. I defer to,
Doesn't bother me. I mean, I don't know what, but
I guess if you're not trying to make it feel like a convenience store, I wouldn't use, doesn't.
But if-
So what,
but-
you have to be 21 to go into the store, is that right? So if I was 16 years old and I had to stop and get some gas over at the liquor store, and I couldn't go in and pay for it, I'd pay for it at the pump.
I wouldn't.
But if you-
I mean, it's gonna be, it'd just be a hassle for folks, I mean, for underage folks that wanna stop, car don't work, they gotta walk in to do something, and they're not supposed to be in there.
But, I mean, if you bought a current convenience store that has gas pumps and wanted to turn it into liquor store, you could make, close the pumps down. That
well,
doesn't make
and
sense
I
to me.
look at a situation, and I'm just pulling this off the top of my head just for discussion purposes. The new development that's going on 41 North. You have multiple, businesses there, storefronts, and you also have a gas station there, because it's right on the interstate. That makes sense. So if they wanted to take a parcel and have someone operate a liquor store there, would that prohibit that if we said no gas sales, because it's all part of that big development? Just,
Right.
again, playing devil's advocate, I'm just asking how that would be interpreted.
I wouldn't think so, cause I mean, it'd still be their own little, they wouldn't have to walk into the gas station to get.
I would think if you have a package store, but they don't sell gas, but there's a
Okay.
gas
Right
pump
there, yeah.
for some other merchant, then I don't think
Then there's no
that
issue.
would be
Okay,
a
that's
problem.
fine. I'm just curious, yeah.
There was one other, I'm sorry, Jack, go ahead.
I mean, what's the issue with selling gas?
It's because, I'm saying that you have to be 21 years to get into the store, the package store. All right, so if you are under the age of 21 and you're gonna stop and get gas, and you don't have your debit card, you gotta pay for gas, now you're entering into the store, pay for the gas.
Oh, you're not entering in the store.
Well, I leave it on the pump.
Well, then you have a window. I mean, if they want to do it, and they realize they can't do it, easy enough, they have windows that you never go inside and you deal with it. So, it just makes sense. But I'll go with it. I'm not.
Let's just
Yeah,
leave that out of it for the moment. We got time to figure that out. Keep going, okay.
All right, and one other thing that I wanted to mention, this was in Union City, and it says, "It shall be unlawful for any elected or appointed official or employee of the city, or his spouse, or minor children to have any whole, partial, or beneficial interest in any license to operate retail spirituous liquor stores in the city." Basically, city employees could not have an interest in a liquor store. I don't know why it's there, and I don't have, whatever y'all want to do with that.
No, that's just Union City.
What's that?
He was asking me if that's state law, and I said that was in Union City.
I would put that in there, because what if you have a person who runs for office down the road, so now if I own a package store, I can't run for office, as long as I be in a felon or something. It's not-
I mean, I can certainly take that out.
Yeah. We just have to really be very transparent when we're drawing those licenses.
Well, I would think that we would recuse ourselves if it was, or any future council or employee or whatever. I don't see any benefit of having that in there, Rob. I don't know that any of us are planning on doing that, but.
Those were some of the things that we wanted, kind of a broad brush of where we are. Jessica sent me some more stuff that, I agree with that will change, some just definitional things and such as that. So let us get another draft, and probably what we'll do is just go ahead and get it to you in an email. That way you can be, start looking at it
Okay,
again.
let's do
We'll be
that.
ready to, go to the next step.
Okay,
Okay.
that sounds good. Everybody good with that? Okay. Good, y'all good with that? Okay, very good. All right, thank you, Rob, and thank you, Jessica, for your investigation and diligence on that. That's very helpful. All right, moving on. We are now on the ordinances section, and we've had our public hearings regarding the two parcels of property, the Carrington property and the Boyd property. So the first one on our agenda is consider ordinance for annexation of the two tracts of land on Carrington Drexler Road, known as the Carrington property. So I'll take a motion concerning the ordinance for annexation on those two parcels.
Rob, was there an issue?
I'm sorry?
Carrington, Carrington Farms and whole county deal and
Well, there was, we did receive a letter from the county, again, raising some objections to it. They're raising an objection as far as their 30-day notice. I believe that was provided to them, but there could be an issue in that regard. I've done some research and have not been able to find any cases on point as far as whether or not the amended letter was sufficient to give them their required notice. So, it's certainly something that, we can correct if that's an issue, or we can move forward with it. I can't tell you, since there's no case law talking about that particular statute, whether or not the notice that we sent back in July is sufficient in conjunction with the letter we sent to them in September. So if we can certainly send them another 30-day notice and put this off for 30 days, give them their notice, or, we can move forward, in light of their objection. That's really up to y'all.
It is, and correct me if I'm not correct, their issue was with the plat. Is that a correct statement?
That was, they had an issue with the amount of acreages, which is not an issue. They also had an issue as far as the adding a parcel, which is not an issue. Again, they raised numerous objections. We have not addressed those directly with the county. If there was an issue that needed to be correcting, could be the 30-day notice. Out of an abundance of caution, you could give another notice and vote on it 30 days down the road.
What about the, I think they brought up a comment about it creating an island in the county?
It does not.
Does not do that?
If the council moves forward, and I'm just talking about the Carrington property now, not the Boyd, but just the Carrington, which they raised all their objections on. If we move forward, they're probably going to file a declaratory judgment against the city. Is that a fair statement?
That's possible. I think that from my understanding of their meeting, they were not really sure whether or not their objections were valid or not, and whether or not they would, proceed with those objections. I just don't know.
So what, and again, I'm just trying to understand what their point is. It relates to the 30-day notice is the main thing. Is that the bulk of it? Is if they had a full 30 days notice in their mind, without exception, there's no change. Here it is. Now we count down the calendar. There would be no opportunity for objection at that point. Is that a fair statement?
In my mind, if there was an objection to it, it would be the 30 days. Again, we sent it to them in July. They had the entire packet. When they made the objection because it was creating an island, we corrected that. Then I sent them another letter letting them know that we corrected that issue that they were concerned about. And now they're saying, well, we need another 30 days.
they came up with some other complaint about we used dotted lines instead of a solid line, or
That's why I
something.
said it was related to the plat that was
Was
submitted.
there anything to that?
No, the plat basically has a solid line where the connector is in order to, keep it from being a unincorporated island. I think from what I understood is it said, well, the plat's wrong because it should be a dotted line rather than a solid line. And so I think when they're saying is, well, because it's a solid line, this looks like a separate parcel, and now you're making an island, when in fact that connector piece of 0.3 some odd acres is still a part of the entire parcel. It's still within the big parcel, it's just not being annexed in. So I don't see their point there.
So we could go ahead and think, we have every right to annex. For whatever reason, you have to ask the county to do it, but the only deal is the 30 days.
That's,
we need to go with an abundance of caution, this thing's been dragging on. Or we can,
well, if we want to satisfy the county's concerns, I can get them a letter tomorrow. And then we can set this down for a vote for a date certain, at a meeting.
I guess my only concern is that, this whole one reason I brought up dotted line and the solid line, that's a new complaint. And I've been send them a letter, and then we'll get another letter back with 3 more different complaints. But they never seem to all get them together. I'm not sure.
One of the objections that they had, and Rob, I don't know enough about this, that's why I need your legal opinion, is that they say that the annexation of the .326 acre parcel, will violate Tipp County's Unified Development Code. More specifically, the parcel will have inadequate acreage and road frontage, as mentioned above. The zoning code requires that these parcels in this district be at least 1 acre in size. Now, if we do something like that, it forces, that.
See, what they're saying is because that 0.3 acres is carved out and it's a solid line, they're saying, well, you've created a parcel. Well, we didn't create a parcel. That 0.3 acres is part of the entire parcel. So we're not creating a separate parcel, that is just not being annexed. So it's still, we're not creating a parcel. It's still part of the entire parcel. It's just not going to be annexed into the city. So I think that their position that we're creating a parcel, we're not creating a parcel. It's still part of the entire whole tract. We're just not annexing that part in.
Does that answer your question, Wes?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Well, I need a motion to do something.
I'm ready to move forward and go, yea or nay. I mean, we'll take, if the county wants to push this thing, and I'm just tired of getting all these various letters and different things. We can just,
Well, they've accused us. They said the county objects to the city's effort to circumvent Georgia code. They basically called us criminals.
exactly,
So-
that's not the first time.
No, I know.
So, I'm gonna make a motion so we gotta do them separate. I mean, as far as the first one is annexing. First we'll do the annexation, then we would do the rezone if it's annexation. I'm gonna make a motion that we annex the, Carrington property.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor to annex the Carrington property. This is just the Carrington, not the Boyd. So we'll deal with the next step. If this passes, our next step will be on the rezoning. So Jack has made the motion to annex the Carrington property. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Let me make sure I got this right. So the annexation of the property into the city, the rezone allows for the rezoning aspect of it allows for the solar farm. Is that correct?
Right now, Rob, you want to answer that?
The annexation of the farm or the property does not allow for the solar farm. You have, the rezone will allow for the solar farm, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
But it's my understanding, if the solar farm is not, if the rezoning doesn't happen, then there's no point for the annexation. Is that
That's right.
correct? Okay. So make sure we're all on the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
page.
It's either both or not.
Right. Okay, so your motion is to annex the Carrington property, the 10.82 acres and the 29.29.4 acres. Correct?
That's right.
Okay. And Johnny has seconded that. So any further discussion, any further questions? All right, I will call for the vote. All those in favor of the annexation, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Nay. All right, so there's no point moving forward with the rezoning. All right, our next request is a consideration for annexation of 2 acres of land located on Carrington Drexler Road known as the Boyd property. So, and it's the same process. It will be, we'll vote on the annexation, and if the annexation passes, then there'll be the potential rezoning. If the annexation doesn't pass, then no rezoning. So, so I'll take a motion concerning the Boyd property.
To annex the Boyd property.
Okay, so we have a motion from Jack to annex the Boyd property. Is there a second? So we have a second from Councilman Terrell. Any further discussion on the Boyd property? Everybody clear with what we're doing? All right, I will call for the vote. All those in favor of the annexation of the Boyd property, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
You said aye. Okay, so it's 4 in favor and 1 opposed. All right, since that did pass, we will now need to take a motion concerning the rezoning of the Boyd property to suburban agriculture, city suburban agriculture.
I move to rezone.
Okay, so we have a motion to rezone. Johnny, second. All right, so we have a motion and a second to rezone from County R1 to city suburban agriculture. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
All right, so we have, that does pass 4 to 1. Okay, moving on, we have our board report. You see in your packet that Jessica sends out to us each month. The applicants, we do have a couple of openings on various boards, and we also have a couple of applicants. Since this is a special called meeting, if we'd like to go ahead and appoint anybody, vote on it, we can certainly do that. Under our Airport Authority, Dr. Greg Anderson, who served as the chair of that board for many, many years, would like to be reappointed, and the Airport Authority has recommended reappointing Dr. Anderson. So if you'd like to do so, we could go ahead and do that tonight, and then there's no lapse in his term.
I move to reappoint him.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to reappoint Dr. Anderson. Any further discussion? Please signify, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Second.
Wes. All right, and then on our Planning and Zoning Board, we do have 3 vacancies, and we do have 2 applicants. This. I think it's just this in a nutshell. I could be wrong, but I think it's this.
Okay. I
I
was thinking that, but I just.
It's very difficult. You know, I'm gonna take a moment of personal privilege here. It's very, very difficult to make these decisions for our community. We pay the price in a lot of different ways. We want to do that. Whether you trust me or not, I can't help that, but I can tell you, every one of these gentlemen that I serve with love this town. Everyone in this management team love this town. They would not do anything to jeopardize our community or to harm our community. And that's why I take such great offense when the county commission chairman sends me a letter that says that we're breaking the law and calls us a criminal. What an insult to my integrity, to their integrity, and to you, the citizens of this community, who every single one of you is represented by a county commissioner. Every one of you. I don't care what your address is, every one of you. I have a county commissioner Pete has a county commissioner for his house, Wes has a county commissioner for his house, and I'm tired of this insults. But these things get very personal, and they're difficult. And we do the best that we can with the information that we're given, with what we see. We have to look at the big picture, and it's just very, very difficult. And I feel like the reason that our planning and zoning board members, and I don't know this, I'm just guessing, the resignations all came back to back to back, and I feel like this has been a part of that. You get phone calls at home at night when you're trying to have dinner with your family. You get phone calls on a Sunday afternoon when you're spending time with your grandchildren. And, you know, that's what we sign up for as elected officials. But the people that serve on our boards are volunteers, just like we are. We asked for this when we signed up to be elected officials. They did not. But to answer your question, and I'm going to meet with some of them and find out, we depend upon them. We need them. We need their input. We need their voice. And it's just very disturbing to see 3 vacancies because of resignations. That's just disturbing. So we'll get down to the bottom of that. But okay, I'm off my horse now. My high horse, or my soapbox, I should say.
It's got to be one of the toughest boards there is.
It is an extremely difficult board. I have served on that board, and I served on that board when Duke Energy wanted to come into Tifton and received threats, and I resigned. Said it's just not worth this.
Not worth it.
So I get it. I applaud the people that do the research, that do the training, that make the effort, that work so diligently to do what's right for Tifton. And that's just really disheartening to see 3 resignations.
Yeah, Mayor, I could probably help if I can.
Sure.
Julie Sharp actually resigned. She has moved to
I
Indianapolis.
knew she was moving, yeah.
So she did move, and she's going to be with her grandchildren, so she had to vacate her seat. Peter Crowley, this is his 2nd term, and he just wants to move on and do something else.
Yep.
And then Julie Lester was part of a subdivision that's what her heart was, and she's against some things, but I think the real reason she's resigned is because she has work schedules on the days of the meeting, and I'm pretty sure that's correct. I don't want to speak for her, but again, it is tough. You're exactly right, but more importantly, we need those qualified individuals to make the decisions to help us make recommendations to you. So
If there's anyone who's a City of Tifton, in this particular board, you do have to be a City of Tifton resident. If there's anyone who is interested, we will get you all the training that you need. Crystal's office is wonderful to work with. Please let us know. Call Jessica, our city clerk, call any of us. We'll make sure that Jessica gets your information.
Because there's 3 resignations, we got to be, I don't think we need to do anything tonight.
That's fine.
I think that's, because remember, we only have 2 now.
That's a small board anyway.
I think this requires a little more analysis to get.
Do you want to?
Well, I'm going to
go ahead, please, no, please do it. Go ahead.
I'm gonna talk to these folks.
Crystal may know more, but they weren't able to have a quorum at their last meeting. I think that's been continuing to happen, because we only have 2 left,
We
right?
have one board member who's in really ill health and is not able to come in person, so that leaves us with 2 people that can come.
And that's not,
We can't make a quorum.
yeah, you can't have a quorum that way. So we need volunteers to help us with this, because this planning and zoning is a recommending board. Planning and zoning hears, planning and zoning does the research, planning and zoning then makes a recommendation to the council. So we desperately need members of our community to serve on the planning and zoning board, and we'll provide the training, we'll get you everything that you need to do that, and then the recommendation is made to the council. Occasionally the council supports, or usually the council supports the recommendation, occasionally we don't. But we do appreciate and do applaud the efforts of all of our members of our boards, whether it's planning and zoning, historic preservation, downtown development, airport authority, numerous boards, and we depend upon our citizens to help us fill those roles. So.
I mean, I think we could maybe, when our meeting comes at the end of this month, I just don't want to jump out here.
That's fine, yeah,
You know,
that's no problem.
We got 3 vacancies, we got 2 applicants, just
Right.
go.
Yeah. I do know one of the applicants, I don't know the other of the applicants, but again, it's been our policy to ask the board to weigh in on that and to make a recommendation. So, Crystal, you've got these applications, and again, if anyone is interested in serving on any of our boards, you can find them on our website, you can contact our city clerk, and we would greatly appreciate it because we need your support and your help. All right, so let's hold off on planning and zoning appointment if everybody's good with that. City manager report, Pete.
Mayor, I don't have anything, thank you.
Oh, I didn't hear you.
Yeah,
I'm
excuse
sorry.
me, I don't have anything.
You don't have
tonight.
anything,
Thank you.
okay. All right, I'm not going to say anything else. I'll consider my comments as my mayor comments. Any council comments?
Are we gonna bring back the 3% for employees up on the next meeting?
It's just pending, that is, again, up to you. Thank you for the support with the police department, that is in motion, so we're ready to move forward with that if you are.
I'm ready to move forward with that. I know that, we have the holidays coming up. It's always nice to get, a little bump at that point in time. I don't know what the rest of the council, we've got it budgeted.
We need to put it on the agenda for.
Yeah, but I think what
I think
DJ's saying is add it to the next
We need to put it on
agenda.
the agenda and talk about it. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right, can you just put that on, Jessica,
will.
can you put that on there? Okay, all right, and then we can vote on it at the next meeting. All right, any comments, gentlemen?
No comments.
No comments? Wes? Did you play good golf today?
I did.
Good.
And,
We're glad you were able to come.
which was great, because, you get to see all the small business owners in our community getting out there and networking with one another and everything. We had, both of our local governments putting in a team. Pete played real well, I know, because I saw his name on the closest to the pin one of those
I win.
shots. You didn't get it, but it was on there. You was beat by a foot.
That's because he was the first one to hit
But
the ball.
it was very impressive, I'll be honest with you, because I did not get close on that hole. But no, the Chamber Tournament always is a great time for everyone to network with us and touch base with old friends and possibly new clients or whatnot. So, it's a great day all the way around. But, this Saturday was more important than anything else because I know I'm coming off of council, and for the longest time, we always used to see the man to my left with a purple LSU shirt on. But he doesn't have one on today because Auburn beat LSU 24-19 on my last year on council. So I'm happy. Now we have the Dogs coming up this week, so I can't talk too much because I'll probably be drowning my sorrows next week, next meeting, but, you gotta, when you beat LSU at night in Baton Rouge, you definitely have to close a little bit.
Never been to Tiger Stadium, Death Valley on a Saturday night, and you haven't lived. Right, Rob?
Well, I have a different view of that.
Okay, yeah, there you go. All right, Johnny, what you got? You good?
I will only say that it's gonna be a mediocre season, but at least I can die happy with the 2019 season. And my other team in pro football, the Saints, did win a Super Bowl once in my life.
Okay.
That's all I got to say.
All right, I'll wrap things up. Just to remind everybody that a week from today, early voting starts. So be sure and get a ballot, go vote. And if there's nothing else to come before council, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
No.
No.
Oh, yeah.